Let's talk.
This is Sunnyside on 95.1 Nigeria Info.
A very good afternoon to you. Welcome. It's 6 minutes past 1. Today is July the 18th, and it's the year 2024. How has your day gone so far? I hope it's gone very well so far and still running. Wishing you all the best with your jobs, wishing you the best with your market, wishing you the best with your business and whatever endeavor you're into. My name is Swat, and I welcome you aboard this very segment on the sunny side. Yes, we started off with a commercial and a sponsored program, all for your own good. I bet, and I'm sure you must have picked up one or two things that would be helpful there along as we go. Okay, so for now, well, we'll just take up on our trending stories for Thursdays like we always do. We try to look at what is heated up or what is actually trending within the polity, and we get to discuss on that. So join me. We're streaming live on Facebook. You can just join me there, and also on our YouTube page, and drop your comments and come along with me even as we go through some stories. Now, we have some interesting happenings within the educational sector. And part of it is, number one, the age that has been pegged for admission into universities. And then some people seem to be protesting and are saying, well, we do not want that. You know, federal government is banning the admission for under 18 into tertiary institutions. I know that in many countries, you cannot send your child to school unless that child attains the age of 5. So to peg 18 also is very, normal and natural, because at least that's assumed that a child or a growing or young adult has attained some sort of maturity, right? Maybe not to be independent in Nigeria, but in other climes, you can leave your parents' house and be on your own because it's presumed that you are full-grown adult and all of that, with all the benefits of the states. But in Nigeria, of course, 18 is seen to attain a certain level of maturity, and you are expected to start voting at that age. You're expected to begin to, enjoy some certain rights, voting rights, driver's license, and a couple of other things once you attain the age of 18, which is considered a mature age, right, in Nigeria. So for the university system or for the Minister of Education to peg it at 18, I don't know what your take is on that, but we'll be looking at that and other issues too. So we'll be starting with that as the federal government says no more admission for anybody that is under 18 into the tertiary institutions in the country. Minister of Education actually said that, Professor Tahir Mamman. He announced a ban on admission for candidates under the age of 18 into any tertiary institution in the country. He announced the 2024 policy meeting of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB. JAMB is hereby notified that there is now a ban on underage students, those under the age of 18, into a tertiary institution from this 2024 admissions. The minister said the federal government was considering the adoption of 18 years as the entry age for admission into universities and other tertiary institutions of learning. So that is what is causing a kickback by some, as some are having a problem with that. It is reported on the Daily Trust that some stakeholders at JAM policy meeting in which this policy was announced, are kicking back. They're kicking against this new minimum admission age for 18 years for students. After the Minister of Education actually made this announcement at the meeting, stakeholders across tertiary institutions in the country raised or resisted turning the session into a rowdy one. The participants started grumbling and forcing the minister to pause his speech until normalcy was actually restored in the course of the meeting. And while reacting to the grumblings from the participants, he insisted that the law requires that their children should be in school at 18 years, having attended 6 years in primary school, 3 years in junior school, and then 3 years in senior secondary school. That is a 6334 system of education by which we are operating, right? And he said that they have to decide to remain and work within the law or not. And the minister noted that the meeting was to ensure that the process of admission for the 2024/2024 is fair. And he said the position of the Federal Ministry of Education was not changed from any institution, okay, and does not, and that those admission outside undergo admission outside the right process. Okay, this is not so comprehensible. Anyway, he said the position of the Federal Government of Education has not changed from any institution that does admission outside the right process, which is the Central Application Process, CAP. One of the participants said that it's not possible. How can a child finish school and write WAEC and JAM and pass, and then you deny them admission? He said that it is the fault of. He said it is the fault of JAM for allowing underage children to write the examination. So those are some of the issues. I know lots of students or lots of children get to finish school at the age of 16, 15 in some cases, and then 17. But now this law that is being enforced by the Minister of Education has raised the question of if it is right to allow students to go into tertiary institutions below the age of 18, which is a very common thing. We see parents hurrying, and I think at some point in time I brought in a specialist who talked about this hurried child syndrome, which is a big menace for many children, because you get to find out that children miss out on a certain part of their lives when parents hurry them up. Sometimes you see children jumping from class 4 straight to secondary school. Sometimes they skip class 6 and then they go straight to secondary school. And then sometimes, in some cases, parents make their children to attempt maybe WAEC or NECO or any of the external examination while in SS2. I attempted that, I know. In SS2, I wrote JAM and I passed, but it's just because my parents did not even allow me. I got a very good score back then when I wrote it. And it's the case with so many people. So you find out that students get to maybe age of 15 and already they have written all the requisite examination they have passed. And the parents are like, why not? It will even be all the better for you to finish at a very good age, early age. So you start early. But really, how productive is that for the kids being hurried? For some, it's not because they jumped any class. For some, it's because they started early. Naturally, it should be 5 years old. In most countries that I know, Western countries, your child cannot go to school until they have attained the age of 5. That's when they start. But here, we have the crashes of this world that you take your children, and they are more or less like learning institutions. We have the kindergarten, we have the nursery schools that people start in good time. Some jump the crash and kindergarten and they just go straight to nursery school. Some start at 3, some start at 4. Some even way earlier than that. So in a case where it's not the parents that are hurrying the child up, but the child actually goes through the process because they started in good time, and they did not miss any class, they did not jump any class. And then you find yourself finishing all and everything from nursery to primary to secondary, and you are now 16 years old. And you've attempted JAM. You've written all the externals and the WAEC of this world or the NECOs of this world, and you've passed. Then what will stop such a child from going? Anyway, we also have the situation in some countries, right? Because at the end of the day, world best practices are good. We do not just go take hook, line, and sinker what is obtainable in other climes and bring it to Nigeria and think it will work, because you would expect the kickback like you saw in that stakeholders meeting where people are saying, no, it's not going to be possible. How can our children write JAM and then they'll be denied that based on their age? Is it a crime to be young? It's not a crime. So on the one hand, you find that some of them are hurried, some of them jump the due process and do not follow the process, which could be inimical to them or could affect them one way or the other later on in life or in the process of going through school or going through life. The voids or the chasms that were created as a result of jumping one stage to the next may come knocking, and you may just have to find a way of doing what you need to do. So, but then some honestly did not jump any process. It's just that they finish in good time. And how fair is it to say, well, you will not gain admission? Anyway, the law does not look at the face of anybody. It's irrespective of feelings, When the law states a thing, whether you're ignorant, whether you like it or you do not like it, you just have to come underneath it. And that's what the Minister of Education is all set out to roll this new policy of setting an age limit for admission into tertiary institutions. I know parents, guardians, people will have a whole lot to say about this. And we'll get to that in a very short moment from now as we look at another interesting story. Still on the IOCs, Dangote Refinery raised alarm some weeks back or some months back about how the IOCs are frustrating the refinery from getting crude oil to the extent that they have to import from other countries in order to fill the quota and ensure that the promise to bring out PMS from that refinery is actually fulfilled. Well, at some point in time, it was said that the IOCs were ordered to supply, and still Dangote Refinery has raised the alarm that the IOCs are still causing crude supply crisis. They are crying out and saying that it's not yet Uhuru. And then coupled with that, we have other developments too within the oil and gas sector. And with reference to the Dangote alarm that has been raised still on this issue that was brought out some weeks back, the management of the Dangote Refineries or Industries Limited has insisted that the IOCs, that's the international oil companies, are still frustrating the supply of crude to its 650,000 capacity refinery. Now, this is the second time or thereabout that this same organization is crying out. The management said that it commended the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission for its various intervention in the oil company's crude supply requests from IOCs and for publishing the domestic crude supply obligation guidelines to enshrine transparency in the oil industry. In a statement on Wednesday, the Dangote Group alleged that the IOCs insisted on selling crude oil to its refinery through their foreign agents, saying that the local price of crude would continue to increase because the trading arm offers cargo at $2 to $4 per barrel, above the NUPRC official rate. So that brings to mind that if this is sold at that rate, $1 now is about 1,400 or 450 or 1.5. Let's just peg it at 1,500, right? It could be less than that as of today. And then you're selling it at 1,000 from $2 to $4. That is between 3,000 to about 6 or 8,000 or thereabout. If you go by the 1,500 naira exchange rate. So how do you expect that petrol is going to be any cheaper if it is sold at that price? So, and that's above the official price that is supposed to be sold, according to Dangote Refinery, that is raising this alarm again. The group also alleged that the foreign oil producer seems to be prioritizing Asian countries in selling crude that they produce in Nigeria instead of Nigerians or Africans. We produce crude in Nigeria, and the priority is to sell it to Asian companies and not Nigerian companies or African countries. And you wonder how that happens. So, yes, there's a lot of politics involved in all of this, but it's very sad and alarming to note that this is what is currently going down. So it raises no hopes whatsoever that if this continues, the scarcity, the lack of supply, the high prices that is being sold, there is no hope whatsoever that if eventually, the PMS begins to come out from the 650,000 capacity refinery, there's not going to be any sort of suko. In fact, you don't expect that you pay that much and then you expect that it is sold below what is currently obtainable. In fact, the MBS report shows that in so many quarters right now, people are buying fuel for between 700 to 750 naira. And if this goes on, it only shows that logically, if PMS comes out of that refinery, it cannot be nothing less than, except of course there's some sort of subsidy, but that's a private business. So how on earth is it supposed to sell for less than what is obtainable in the markets right now, in the filling stations? So maybe he would have to export, to people who are willing to buy rather than to sell in the Nigerian market. Because if you're buying it at $4, for example, which is an equivalent of 6,000 naira, then what are we saying? Does that mean that 1 liter of PMS is not going to be like 6,000 because you're buying crude at that price? It's something to be logical. I'm not saying maybe there is some hidden mathematics or there's some other things to consider, but I'm just trying to look at it on the face of it, from the layman's point of view. And that's it. Now, the Vice President, Oil and Gas Dangote Industries Limited, Mr. DVG Edwin, said that if the domestic crude supply obligation guidelines are diligently implemented, this will ensure that we deal directly with the companies producing the crude oil in Nigeria as stipulated by the Petroleum Industry Act. Edwin insisted that the IOCs operating in Nigeria had consistently frustrated the company's request for locally produced crude oil as feedstock for its refining process. And he stated that when cargoes were offered to the oil company by the trading arms, it was sometimes at $2 to $4 per barrel, premium above the official price set by the NUPRC. As an example, we paid $96.23 per barrel for cargo of Bonga crude grade in April. That's excluding transport. You can imagine that. Then the price consisted of $90.15 dated Brent price plus $5.80 NMPC premium plus $1 trader premium. In the same month, we were able to buy WTI at a dated Brent price of $90.15 and so on and so on. It's just a lot of calculation there in dollars. And then you have to sell it in naira. How much does that amount to at the end of the day? Okay, he goes on to say, to set the record straight, would like to recap the facts below. Aside from the NNPCL, to date, we have only purchased crude directly from only one local producer, that is Sapetro. All other producers refer us to their international trading arms, and these international trading arms are non-value adding middlemen who sit abroad and earn a margin from crude being produced and consumed in Nigeria. They are not bound by Nigerian laws and do not pay taxes in Nigeria on the unjustifiable margin that they earn. So it tells you that there is a lot of complication and politics in this oil and gas thing. It's just looking more complicated every day, with people hoping that there will be some sort of succor and then, pinning their hopes on Dangote. But Dangote is only mirroring the greater problems that they are facing. So it doesn't give any hope that there is going to be any sort of price reduction or there's going to be any succor for Nigerians at the end of the day. And it brings true to the point that many have been harping. Dangote is not a charitable organization. They're there for their own business. So number one, people should not naturally expect any price reduction. But from the way diesel was reduced, when they started producing, people kind of had high hopes. But with this problem being mirrored right now, it tells you that it's a bunch of complication. And I don't know if anything will come out that will make it easy for Nigerians who are buying fuel at very high prices as it is right now. Okay, so those are the issues this afternoon to consider. It's 1:24. We'll take a quick commercial break and then we will come back. Today is all about trending stories. Remember, we talked about the banning of admission for under 18 students into tertiary institutions in Nigeria. This would definitely generate debate because already stakeholders are kicking and are saying that's not even possible. But what do you think about that, coupled with the oil and gas story? Let's take a break and come back.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.
Abuja.
Introducing the first of its kind in
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
everyone. My name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
Connection established.
Audio Jungle.
Happening within the policy, and he said that they must ensure that they avoid acts or activities that will breach the peace in the dear precious state, which is Borno State. And he said finally he calls on all of them to provide the much needed advice, suggestion, and critical questions to guide peace building in the state. It's a stakeholders meeting, and also the PDP governors gathered together also and warning the federal government and its agents to stay away from the crisis in Edo, in River State. They have actually have their support for River State Governor is Fubara, and they're also saying that they need to reclaim leadership position and lamenting, the hardship in the country and how things have actually deteriorated, blaming the APC and so on and so forth. These are lots of developments, but nothing to go into. But let's focus on the issues on the table this afternoon in case you want to make your comments. What do you think about the age that is pegged for admission into Nigerian tertiary institutions by the Minister of Education? Okay, 18. What do you say? Is it a good one for us? Or do you think it's not fair, it would not augur well for us and the children who are going to be at the receiving end? Lucky for the ones who have had to go in earlier than now, but from now on or moving forward, even from this 2024 admission, it will be implemented. It's a new policy. And then the oil and gas wahala, Dangote Refinery is still speaking out on the problems and the bottlenecks being experienced within that sector. It shows there might not necessarily be any hope, right? Anyway, let me know what you think. 0700 951 0000 and 080 9597 4869. WhatsApp is 080 999 30137. Please leave your messages for me on Facebook. I'm streaming live. You can join me there and drop your thoughts and comments. Hello. Okay, sorry about that. Hello.
Good afternoon, Swat.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Thank you. This is Miodeni calling from Port.
Okay, sir. Welcome.
I want to speak on this age of 18 that has been respect before people can gain admission to tertiary institution. Actually, it's not all that a new policy. It has been in existence for long. Only few universities were not complying with that directive then. But now that has been brought to the fore again, I want the Minister for Education to be conscious of the fact that, number one, we have some gifted and exceptional students that before they attain the age of 16, they've cleared WASC. It's not even the issue of parents now pushing them. You give them, they are in JS1, give them JS3 exam. You will see them scoring 90. There is no point delaying those gifted and exceptional ones. And the federal government equally recognizes this. That's why they set up gifted schools. So we have to make provision for those students. Also, we have to realize that the buying students that are ready for university education, tertiary institutions, not going because of age, is archaic. It's not a modern policy. We should allow people to grow at their own pace. So there should be provision for them. And my question is that do they think private universities will comply with such a directive? Bear in mind that though they are set up to advanced educational situation in Nigeria, they actually have to make money. So that policy should be petitioned. That's my own opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you so much for calling, Mr. Hajimi Odeni. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Thank you. My name is Abdul calling from Jabi.
Okay.
On the respect of what the Minister of Education is saying, I don't know. When the music change, I think the dance step has to change in this era we are into. I thought he has listened to the previous I beg to differ students in Nigeria info or some of his colleagues and give him a little bit information about our own Nigerian youth kids, how fast their brain is speaking. And I'm going to refine him to listen to the final I beg to differ that is going to take place in Lagos, so that he will now, that will make him to change his own narrative on the respect of that age. The children of today, from 15, 14, even 13, they are well educated, perfectly capable at any point in time to surprise you. So I don't think age matters as far as they follow the procedure. They have finished the school, the primary, secondary, and when they reach to the writing WAEC or whatsoever, they have get it right, accurate. I think the next thing to do, let them give them the admission and continue their own education. That is the best idea to me, because I beg to differ. It makes me to think now, yes, the children of today, they are capable. Most of our representatives and most of the people in the system of government, I don't think they even have a knowledge of the children of today. That's what I see. The kind of debate that takes place in that I beg to differ make me to respect the kids of today. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you are doing and doing it very well.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Adejo Moses.
Okay, Adejo, welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, calling from Airport Road. You know, regarding to the issue, very, very important, because I could remember in Faculty of Medicine, there's a certain boy they employ the admin to the university. Some of the operation and some of the things they ask.
Hello, Mr. Adejo.
There's need for maturity before they could. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
There's need for maturity before they can allow them into the university, because it's not that they can, but there's that maturity that they need in the areas of that sensitive stuff like maize and all of that. That is why we see a lot of quack doctor in our hospital today.
Quack doctor you. Because of age? Really? Quack means you did not complete school, or you just have baked knowledge or something.
Yeah, some of them, because apart from even the issue of knowledge, there's the maturity. Some of them, they're based on this in theory, but practical. For them to carry on practical, they couldn't do it very well
because they are young. Do you think age is an impediment? Is a disease? Like if you are young, that means you are incapable of grasping things. Is that what you think?
No, it's not an impediment anyway. But I'm talking about the aspect of maturity.
Oh, okay.
Understand?
Okay.
That's the area I'm looking at.
All right, because I mean, you said something about quack being quack because they are not mature or something like that. So I'm just thinking if maturity is a function, or quackery is a function of whether you're matured or not. Because I've seen very mature people who are quack in certain fields. So I don't know. I just needed to clear that out with you. But thank you for your contribution, Mr. Adejo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Someone else is here. Hello.
Yeah, but good afternoon.
You're welcome.
It's good you took this my call.
Yeah.
Actually,
what's your name?
My daughter want to talk about days and 19th birthday today.
What's your name, sir?
My daughter, very brilliant daughter, at the age of 13.
Hello, sir. Hello?
Hello.
Can you tell me your name?
You said? Okay, my name is Edward.
I said your name.
Edward.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Edward.
Yeah. I said my daughter was particularly when we wrote WAEC and the JAM. In the JAM, she scored 280 and cleared all her WAEC and NICO. Today she's 19 and she's in 500 level in law. In fact, by next month, she'll be writing her final degree exam. And what is more outstanding about it is that her cumulative as at today, as the last semester, she scored 4.35 over 5. So such brilliant child can a law made by government stop them from doing what they want to do. I think when the government loses focus, they start to pursue shadow. I think what they're doing is trying to pursue shadow. It's allow children who are gifted to express themselves and include their God-given talent, rather than trying to bring them down. Other people are trying to encourage, other clients are trying to encourage the young ones to express themselves and then achieve their God-given potential. In our own case here, we try to suppress them. I mean, how a lot of out-of-school children, who they should be their major concern to make sure that these children are back in school. And they're trying to suppress those who are expressing themselves in a more brilliant way.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You said your daughter wrote JAM at the age of 13. What class? What class was she in?
She's reading law. She's a 500 level.
No, I said what class was she when she wrote her JAM and her WAEC? SS2 in 13 years old.
I'm telling you.
So what age did she enter secondary school? 9 years old or what?
When she closes by this month, I will bring that to the student you can chat with her home. She's 19 today, 15th of July.
Okay.
She's 19 and she's writing her degree this month at 58 this month.
Okay, thank you.
And she'll be for law school by September.
Okay.
I don't know what we should try to suppress others who are trying to express themselves. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, interesting. Do I say testimony of a parent whose child wrote WAEC and JAM at the age of 13, and she's in a 400 level now, or is it 5? He said she's 19 years old. I mean, I see a lot of these things. And I don't know. So it cannot be a hard and fast rule. It cannot be binding. Like Uncle Jimmy was saying something about very special or gifted children who are able to go ahead of their peers. You know, we have them spread across everywhere in this country, and even outside of this climate, there is a special provision made for students like that, because you recognize that whether you like it or not, there are children that exist like that, they are way ahead. You see some of them on social media where they are able to do some very tough mathematical problems. They solve it. I saw this kid. His mother was just asking 20 plus 19 minus 10 divided by this. And he was just giving answers without doing, coming from his head. That child is a gifted child already. You cannot deny. And that child, you cannot tell me is going to move at the same pace with all the other children that have to learn it from the rudiments and grow into it. That child is not more than, I think about 9 years old or thereabout, and is already solving some very complex mathematical problems. You see plenty of them like that. Some of them it's in critical thinking. Some of them it's in all sort of fields that they're able, so they are specially gifted and they have an ability that's different from the other kids. So, yeah, like he was asking the question, where do you put those kind of ones? So, we continue with our conversation. Let's take on this caller. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Welcome.
My name is Stephen from Berlin.
Okay, go ahead.
To me, the government wants to frustrate education in this country.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
You're welcome.
Yeah. My name is Mike when wind blows.
Okay.
Though I never joined for too long, but I can get an idea of what you are saying. You see, this rush of we parents or this rush of children not allowing to mature or go through the rudiments of, I think we're doing 6334, right?
Yes.
But like I told you now, Swat, there's no primary 6 again. I'm having this battle with my children's school about, say, my second son is in primary 5. They said, making go right common entrance. I say, what of the primary 6? What they're telling me, I'm not too satisfied, but I know I've gone through all the school around here. Primary 6 has been eliminated tactically. Have you noticed that?
Oh, I haven't too. I'm just hearing it for the first time because I know.
I'm telling you now. This is what I'm telling you.
Is it private schools? Is it private schools? Because government schools still operate class 6.
I know, but the private schools now we talk about here. But the proximity of where my house is to the public school here, my children cannot be going like that. I don't know how to go about it.
Okay.
You get? And so when I engaged, they told me, when they start some of them with kindergarten, those children, those moms don't have time to take care of their children to some certain age because of their work. So they go put them for kindergarten. That some of the things they learn from that kindergarten. I said it doesn't make sense to me. That like my own wife, when she was alive, and she took care of her children. We don't put our children for kindergarten. So when they start school, they are telling me, because the kindergarten, everybody leave their children for kindergarten. When they get all of those things, they want to make it a standard. Say, okay, elementary primary 6. Now, if somebody is telling us here that his child is writing German at the age of 13, the question we're asking him, at what age, which class were there? It's not about just pushing these children out there. That is why we have people out there, they can come with all sorts of qualification, total certificate. They can't defend it in the job world, in the labor market. It's not about pushing them out there for me, because certain things, for some of us who go to our nice school, certain things they put us through, we are seeing the effect today. Even though we don't get anything or we are not occupying any this, but the things we know, the things we can do to ourselves, the procedure they took us through. Like me, that time our time, if your hand from your hand no reach to that ear, to that side, you don't get a primary school. That is how we will go. So the rush, I don't think the rush is the matter. Let children learn those things they're supposed to learn, and let the school pass through them. It's not about rushing them. Say, my children my picking is university at the age of 15. That is not the issue for me. Thank you. Okay.
Well, just in case, just before you go, though, we're discussing about the new policy thrust by the Minister of Education. He said that students from the 2024 session, this new JAM session, would only be admitted if they attain the age of 18. So that's what we're talking about. Just in case you're hearing, let's take on the messages we have. Miss Swat, our education. Let me see. Our education policy is now 934. 9 years of compulsory education. It is no more 6334. Now you know that one. Okay, good afternoon, Ma. According to Daily Trust now, the minister has reversed the decision. 16 years can now enter higher institution again. Babatunde, that's what you said. I'm Austin from Galadima. I don't think this policy is not allowing candidates under the 18 age. I don't think this policy of not allowing candidates under the age of 18 is good. This is because we have a maximum of 29 years old to go to NYSC, while anyone from 30 years and above is eligible for NYSC is not eligible. Another thing is our years that could be spent to get a job after school. They also should consider the minimum age required before the employer acquires the job seeker. Okay. This one said, nothing stops brilliant children from following the system of education we practice of this parents, or these parents are the ones forcing or pushing their children just because they are brilliant. Life itself is a process. If some of us are God, the world will end today. You didn't even put your name. Hello, Swat. How are you? Trust your hubby had a fun-filled celebration yesterday. Yes, he did. If a child is brilliant and mature emotionally and socially, why deprive him from early education? Imagine the age limit plus frequent strikes in our public institution of learning. When will the child graduate? The government should think of how to make our institutions of learning better for international standards and forget this age cap. A happy birthday, Adewumi Daniel. Oh, yes, today's Adewumi's birthday. Happy birthday to our dear Adewumi. God bless you, sir. And wish you long life and many, many happy returns. Okay, I'll put a call through to you later. Ibu Farah from Wuse said the age limit to admission into the university is a waste of time because affidavit will rubbish the policy. The minister should be much concerned with the standard of our schools and the quality of teachers who teach his children and not their age. All right, let's take on this caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Auntie Swat. How are you?
Fine. Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I heard yesterday was our birthday.
Yes.
Yesterday was our birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
That your lovely husband. Tell him that I send my love, my greetings, everything.
Thank you. Thank you, ma.
Initiate to him. Long life and prosperity. And I will need 3 boza for you. 1 for subsidy is gone. 1 for price of rice. 1 for price of beans. And calling through WhatsApp. I know that it will affect my conversation, but I will continue.
Okay.
I learned that IOC are the ones depriving my Dangote from starting production. I want to appeal to the government to do the needful, except we have entered agreement that we Nigerians are not aware. The moment his refinery starts working, I believe that it will ginger the government to establish our own refinery. Secondly, the governor of my governor, Borono, he begged people not to protest. I want to beg him to talk to Mr. President between today and 1st of August that people are planning to protest. Let Mr. President just release things woto outside that will make people that are even planning to say, between these few days, we should give this president time. If not, I leave it at that. Now, let's come back to education. What is the meaning of education? Education is not all about reading and writing. Let's get it right. We are all intelligent in our right. Before, I will be disturbing my children. Now, I know they disturb them because things are difficult. I cannot carry A is for apple, B is for ball to the market to buy something. That is one. Secondly, you that read social works, are you using that social works in this country? When I was in secondary school, I was the second oldest child in that school, in my set. You know why? Most of their parents are abroad. They just drop those children because they are not with them. I discovered that because I was older and a bit wiser, I was not intelligent. I was not among the intelligent students, but that wisdom is there because of age. What they were doing as young secondary school, from just 2, 3, I know what most of them have started doing. I know do because of age. Quickly fast forward it to university. When you get to university, you are really intelligent. You know your A is for apple, B is for ball. There are certain things that you are not expected to do when you are in university. Those group, I would not call it the way it's supposed to be because the school I went to, those group whole ground were so let's be like that. They will gather for birthday. We are a bit older, we know early that if you go for birthday, you have joined group. So we face A is for apple, B is for ball. But most of them, because they are tender, they don't know much. How many parents have time to check their children? Before you know, all of them join Kuya. Let's carry it to work. If you see somebody that carry certificates, is certified very well, and the person does not have this wisdom that is following age, maturity, even where they behave sometimes, even if the person is a director, you will see that this one, play with Sansan for house. So where am I going? This issue of 18 years, we might take it to 17, not 18, is something that I think in my own home, when something like this comes, other people will say, no good. I do it, I practice it. My first son, when he was going to JSS 1, no primary 6, he was the only person in that class. All the parents sent their children. Some of them, when they met in secondary school, they are older than the parents allowed their children to do primary 6 now. Because they have finished school, they know A is for apple, but they don't know much about life. Sis, let me tell you the truth. This thing that people are saying they are not implementing, I do implement it in my home. And I'm seeing the difference. I will tell you that it will not work. You know why? So many parents want to fast forward the future of their children. Not their fault, though. Remember that this Minister of Education that is saying 18 years, you should look about strike. I remember we stayed at home for 8 months. We will be children of poor people will go public university 8 months because they increased salary from 10,000 to 12,000. 8 months, that's one. Secondly, if you are going to work, they will tell you bring experience, 4 years experience. You that you have spent all your life in school, where will you get the 4 years experience? Then fast forward to NYSC, they will tell you when you are 29 years old or 30 years, you will serve. It's not like some of us want to serve this country because of the Allah. We use it to start life. I use my own to buy wheelbarrow and give it to my mother because my mother needed wheelbarrow so that they will fetch water for her because the table water is far from our village. You understand? So most of us want to serve. The children of rich, they tell you, say, NYC be their problem. So this 6334 they are talking of, let the government implement it. Just last year, when they say you must reach 12 years before you enter JSS 1, help me ask how many institutions, how many schools implement that? They don't implement that, and only my picking.
Okay. Hello.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Omeza. Appreciate that. Okay. Just by way of some breaking news, it's being carried that the minister has finally bowed to pressure and is accepting 16 years as admission age for 2024. That's the latest in the breaking news. The minister has bowed to pressure because there was a lot of rancor, like we reported, when he was making that new policy. Now, he has finally said, okay, it's okay, don't worry, off your mic, it is okay. Let's waive the 18 years benchmark and take it that you have to attain 16, which is fair enough, right? So, 16 years now, as the minister has bowed to pressure from everybody around in that stakeholders meeting. So it's no longer 18. But, I mean, assuming we had that, still your thoughts on that 18 years that was intended to be applied for Nigerian students before they get admission. We can still make our comments on that, even though right now that has been reversed, as is reported by the minister, to be 16. Shala from Gwagwalada said, good afternoon, Swat. Trust you're doing great. Please, my own is, what can we do to elective leaders who act unconcerned about the welfare of citizens to lead? My rant is on the current local government chairman of Gwagwalada, the Market Road. Okay, that's not what we're discussing, inshallah. Maybe bring that up when we bring up that discussion. Let's just finish up what we have because I don't want us to deviate. Maduka from Jabi said this will bring day of birth forging. Okay, date of birth forging, right? We have a whole lot of it right now. Talk more of. Okay, good afternoon. Swat says Hafsat. We'll just pause quickly for a commercial and then we'll come back and round up because we have a commercial from 2 to 3.
More talk, news and sports after this.
Holiness Revival Movement Worldwide. Horimo, non-denominational.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is
everyone. My name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
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 And Sports Station. This is Nigeria Info.
This is Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Alrighty, welcome back. 3 minutes before the top of the hour, 2 o'clock. We have a commercial from 2 to 3, so we might not even be able to enter into the 2 o'clock hour. So yes, we will be rounding up from now on. Let me quickly read the messages we have. We have this one from Sonny Ushafa. He said the reason why our education system is decaying is because the kind of education ministers handling affairs of our education, most of them are political ministers, not professionals like other countries. A brilliant child and gifted child can write any exam and pass. Why discriminating the child? Sonny is asking. And this one here, Solomon from Life Camp said, good afternoon, Madam Swat. I think I don't support this policy by the Minister of Education. He should also stop people and organization that want their new recruits to be below 25 years with 10 years working experience. And what is the retirement age for civil servants in Nigeria? Solomon sends that in. Then Oludade said, good afternoon, Swat. Nigerian government needs to do everything humanly possible to support Dangote because with government support, this project will continue to suffer in the hands of these unscrupulous elements that don't want Nigeria to work economically. It's high time for us as a people to support our own, irrespective of who is concerned. Dangote, Innocent Motors, Airpeace, and Co. need our patronage and support. Okay, thank you. Tony said, I wrote results of local government election in my office when I was chief. Okay, this is not for me. Olufemi Soretire said, good afternoon. The problem Dangote Refinery is experiencing with the IOCs is similar to what Airpeace is going through in the aviation sector. The foreign institutions are bent on not seeing a good turnaround in Nigeria, and some Nigerians are insinuating that the federal government do not want Dangote refinery to work, which is an unfortunate assumption. This is the time to chase out IOCs that are not ready to respect Nigeria's sovereignty. So I love this policy. In my area, I have 2 boys, 14 years old, that are writing WAEC and NECO now. They are very small and immature to go to university because they can be influenced negatively by anything. Parents are just rushing their children through school for whatever reason. These children need mental maturity, and some of them write WAEC from SS1, from Williams in Maraba. Thank you. And then lastly, Manjok from Lube said, do you know that La Sabur, an 18-year-old genius from the United States, became the youngest professor in history teaching at Konkuk University in South Korea? Mind-blowing, right? Yet in Nigeria, we're still stuck in outdated rules, denying talented students university admission due to age restriction. It's time to recognize that education is about aptitude, not age. It's not about age. The earlier we nurture our young minds, especially our girl child, the brighter our collective future shines. Let's break free from unnecessary barriers and unleash the potential within. What do you think, Barrister Swat? Let's ignite the conversation. Thank you so much, Monjok. And with that, we come to the end of this very segment. I thank you so much, guys, for the contribution. Unfortunately, I can't read all the messages and take the calls that I'm seeing. We have to stop now. I'll be back after this quick break. Stay with me.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
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 For joining us again for our interesting radio program that we bring to you bi-weekly here on 95.1 Nigeria Info, brought to you by Protecting Our Communities Initiative, POCI. And today's topic is the Livestock Ministry, a game changer for farmer-herders relations. Well, as you all know, the creation of a dedicated livestock ministry has been proposed as a solution to the ongoing or long-standing conflicts between farmers and herders in Nigeria for the longest of time that's been happening. So we'll break down this topic and hopefully give insight to it. And of course, we're also hoping that there will be a long-lasting solution. My guest today is Mr. Paul Andrew Gwaza, Research Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution, IPCR. Welcome, sir. Good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
And thank you for coming too. And our usual Adedoyin Betiku, Senior Programs Officer, Strategic Communications and Peace Building, NIM Foundation. How are you?
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Okay. This gentleman have extensive working experience on issues related to farmer-herder relations and have been closely following the developments surrounding the new livestock ministry. So, we thank you for joining us again. Let's just get it started. Now, how do you foresee the creation of the livestock ministry impacting the current dynamics between farmers and herders? Let's talk to you, Mr. Paul.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to again interrogate the emerging trends with regards to the farmers and herders relations in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And by extension, you look at the dynamics in Sahel and Africa, broadly speaking. So I see the creation or the proposed creation of the livestock Development Ministry by the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a decision in the right direction. Because this has come, and by the way, we should know that anything that is done by anybody for the development of this country towards ending conflict is a good thing, provided it's not escalating or is not tending towards in any way heightening the violence that has in recent times affected the relationship between these wonderful occupations in Nigeria. So I see it as a good decision towards managing the problem of farmers and herders in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Betty, could you want to add to that?
Yes. I think it's interesting, like Mr. Paul mentioned. I know I've had this conversation with quite a number of people, and even on social media, there is the uproar as regards to whether or not the country actually needs that, knowing that we have a Ministry of Agriculture, we have the National Livestock Transformation Plan of 2019, we have the Oronsai report, which was allegedly supposed to reduce the cost of governance by merging related MDAs and all
together.
of that. We also have the Land Use Act, which empowers states to sort of manage land use and the value chain within that system. But like he rightly said, I think if it's important that we also see that this conflict has gone for far too long.
Yeah.
Ideally, maybe the go-to would probably have been, how do we reshape the current Ministry of Agriculture to make them more robust in tackling these issues? But I think in his wisdom, the ministry, the federal government has decided to create this separate ministry.
Yeah.
I think it will be interesting to see how the dynamics plays, actually knowing that the farmers might then start to maybe advocate for a Ministry of Farming, understanding that agriculture technically is supposed to capture every aspect of farming, including herding. Herding is actually farming, right? So these are agro-pastoral communities and all of that. So I think moving beyond the whether or not it should be created or not, I think we are here now. So maybe looking forward, I think there can be more streamlined policies and initiatives, I think, aimed at improving livestock management within the country. I think this is now where we need to take advantage of our early warning agencies and also the power of dialogue, where we are able to speak to the issues concerning the farmer-herder clash, which is majorly hinging on the land grabbing in some areas. If you look at the Middle Belt, for instance, a lot of the issues that they face that we classify as farmer-herder conflict is majorly on the land grabbing, cattle rustling, and the rest. And I think that if these issues are properly managed, I think it will really help, and it will then maybe be a green scorecard on the ministry going forward.
Okay. Interesting perspective you've given us into that. Now, moving on now, how will the new livestock ministry address core issues of land, like you talk about, pasture? Then also we're looking at things like water access that have fueled conflicts between farmers and herders all this while. How do you think the ministry will handle some of these issues?
Okay, so it is good to put the emergence of the ministry into context.
Yeah.
The first thing is that there was a conference which is called the National Conference on Livestock Development and conflict associated with it by the former governor of Kano State, convened in Kano under the chairmanship of Atahiru Jega, Professor Atahiru Jega, the former chairman of INEC. The outcome of the conference is what actually informed the decision of the president to create this ministry. If you have read the communique coming from the conference, one of the key things is that federal government of Nigeria, I think, recognized that it has limitation in terms of the management of land, water resources, and indeed pastures generally. So, and then for you to be able to address this issue holistically, you need then the state government that has the power, because the Land Use Act vests powers in the urban centers in every state in the governors, and then in rural communities in the local government chairman, or in some larger extent the community holding. So it recognized one of the resolution in that conference is that then it encourages state governments to also create livestock ministries at the local government level. So it is all state and all society approach that the ministry is supposed to drive. So it's not going to be at the end of the day that the federal government will, or the Ministry of Livestock will go to every state in the country and at the end of the day just be taking over lands. It has to be with the consent of every state.
Mm-hmm.
And with the benefit of hindsight, you recall also that is actually the spirit behind the National Livestock Transformation Plan that Buhari also had. So that at the end of the day, we have a holistic approach that every party, but we know also the challenges that confronted the Livestock Transformation Plan and even the Ruga idea of the Ruga, that some states were not keen into it. We believe that if every state is encouraged, they will be able to key into it. The idea is that ministries, as it were, is a policy-driving initiative. It's not largely to go and force implementation on people. But I need to reflect further on this to say that the creation of the Livestock Development Ministry is not necessarily to manage conflict directly, to facilitate mediation. And I understand that is where the concern that they reflected earlier will come to stream, so that then you begin to think, where is then the ministry for crop farming? All right. So, and again, another thing that we need to also say, that livestock does not mean cattle rearing, strictly speaking. It's livestock broadly speaking. So there is piggery, there are poultry and other issues like that is under livestock, and they all cover that. So in this reflection, therefore, as a peace person or a peace practitioner and a conflict manager, therefore, you then know that peace building is brought to cover issues of development. So when you are able to address the concerns that is driving herders into taking up arms against their fellow Nigerians that are into crop farming, if you're able to address issues of concern to them, and one of the critical issues of concern is that, okay, you are proposing that they should be ranch. So how will we go about ranching? I think the ministry will then go into that. And I know that you let me not preempt some of the questions you're asking. But when it comes to issues of land, water, and pastures, the ministry will then initiate policies around that and facilitate conversation with the state, provide the ground, the template in which state will begin to then initiate the processes for the creation of their own state ministries of livestock. And as well as even at the local government level, you begin to have departments that are dealing with livestock issues. But I think, broadly speaking, the federal government then drives and influences initiative at these other federating levels to ensure that we have that. And together, we'll be able to achieve that. I think that is my take on that.
I really like how Mr. Okay, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I really like how Mr. Paul puts it, and I couldn't have said it any better. I think now more than ever is the need for this ministry, especially cluster ministries, to begin to work more closely with each other. I see that there's also a need for enlightenment with regards to modern herding techniques. He mentioned ranching, for instance. I know that in the course of our work, there have been a lot of agitations about grazing roads and all of that, and the encroachment in grazing routes that has been established donkey years from now. But we understand that with climate change, population increase, and all of that, the grazing routes that we used to know, the pathways that we used to know, are being either taken over by urbanization. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of more cattle on the express roads now. Also, we are seeing that even the farming land is almost not enough because of the climate change that we are currently experiencing. So it's a lot of work. So if we look at it again from the positives, I think it's a lot of work for the ministry. I think they have their work cut out for them. but I think they don't need to do it by themselves. Again, we have the Office for Early Warning that can help support in terms of sensitization, orientation, enlightenment, education, and all of that to these communities. We have early warning systems, we have dialogue facilitation systems, and even CSOs that are working within this space. So I think it's something that calls for broader collaboration across board, because I don't think the ministry alone will be able to sort this out. Again, we are saying that, okay, it was because of certain necessities that, was carved out of the Ministry of Agriculture. So just so they don't repeat the same issues or mistakes of the past, I think it's a good time to look at opening the doors for more people for collaboration.
Yeah, so let's talk about challenges. What are some of the challenges, in your opinion, now that this very ministry will face in its effort to resolve these conflicts that we've had? It has spanned through the years because of a whole lot of factors that you guys have. But what are some of the major challenges that you think the livestock ministry will face in the course of trying to sort this?
Obviously, some of the challenges will be the challenges of effective engagement with stakeholders across board. And I think Ade has mentioned the fact that they need to collaborate. It's a new ministry. There are people that have been engaged in the mandate of livestock previously, and with the creation of this new ministry, typical of us in Nigeria, and indeed broadly speaking, we normally want to protect us. So you begin to have this challenge of how do you go about, you want to take over my job and all that. So that is going to happen. So they should expect that.
Okay.
There is already in the current Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, food security, an existing department for livestock. So I envisage that to be a smart move in policy is to move the staffing and the structure into the emerging or the created Ministry of Livestock, so that then you don't begin to say, okay, you are taking away our responsibility. So that is one challenge that I envisage. The second challenge is what Ade has said earlier. The fact that the expectations from Nigerians is that we want you to solve the farmer-herder conflict. And then you look at it critically, it's not a ministry for farmer-herder conflict. It's neither is it a ministry for farmers and herders or crop farmers and pastoralists. It's a ministry for livestock development, and so there will be that expectation after a year or two, and if the farmer-herder conflict is not resolved, then we begin to blame them that we created you for this purpose. So I think, like Ade has said, there is need for sensitization that they are not created directly to be involved in the management of farmer-herder conflict. They are not created solely or directly, let me use that word, directly for the resolution or mediation of farmer-herder conflict. They are supposed to facilitate development and address the concerns of the livestock farmers, so that at the end of the day, that thing that is driving them into a conflictual relationship with the crop farmers would have been addressed. And by that, then you prevent the whatever is creating that. And they said earlier also that when you talk about cattle routes and grazing reserve, that has been one of the demands of the cattle breeders in Nigeria, is how will you visit the cattle routes? How will you, what is the word now? They said revive the grazing reserve that have been encroached. They highlighted the fact that encroached by overpopulation, urbanization, and all that. If you have studied and have taken time to study some of the peace agreements that have been signed by farmers and herders, reflecting about the Kafanchan peace declaration by farmer herders, there are a couple of some in Adamawa, in Benue State, in Taraba State. Indeed, recently, the governor of Jigawa State, in fact, entered into the ring and ensure that there is a resolution of conflict between farmers and herders in Jigawa State. It's so fascinating. You may want to read it yourself. You discover that the governor did not only leave government officials to do that, he went himself to call the farmers, engage even with one that has been notorious for killings in the state to ensure that there is resolution of the conflict. Now, but that's by the way. If you read the resolution carefully, you will discover one thing that is always coming on board, and that thing is that that we should be able to, among ourselves, farmers, crop farmers, and pastoralists, redefine the cattle routes, redefine the grazing reserve. How do we now say, if cattle have been plying these routes before and now urbanization has blocked it, how do we go about in a manageable way redefine it, right? So I think that the emerging livestock ministry will begin to think along that side. Not to say that you demolish houses or you want to reclaim, I think that's the word I've been looking for. Reclaim grazing reserve or cattle routes. It's almost not possible in the reality that we live in, and it's one of the causalities of the conflict between farmers and herders, right? So I think that the ministry then will begin to think through redirecting. What is the appropriate channel that we redirect? One of the thoughts that we were thinking in the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution some years back was to say, okay, we have this NMPC. It was a funny proposal that we were playing in our head. We have this NMPC pipelines that have been, large portion of lands that have been, you have these pipelines that have been, if you are traveling along Kaduna and you're going to South Nigeria, you discover that large parcel of land, we say this is NMPC land, please don't encroach. Is there a way we can take advantage of a portion of it and say, okay, herders, you can use this portion on this land and go to the south and come back through these lines without encroaching into urban settlement or into lands that have been created. So, but to again further answer your question, there will be challenges in terms of that. So the ministry should know that it has limitation in terms of managing conflict. It has limitation in terms of strictly preventing early warning matters, but they can prevent conflict if they stay on course in terms of development and in terms of ensuring that there are infrastructure. One last challenge that I envisage, let me not exhaust it so that Ade will have something to say, is the issue of funding.
Funding, okay.
Is the issue of funding. Whether we like it or not, the government currently is, but the president has instructed the Minister of Budget Planning, as well as the Minister of Finance, to ensure that funds are made available. But this is the first year. When what do they call it? The steam is high. When the steam is cooled down, then you begin to confront the challenges that every ministry, department, and agency is confronted with, and that is the issue of funding. I
absolutely agree. I think he has said most of what I wanted to say. Maybe if I could just add, I know there's going to be a little resistance to change. We are aware that a lot of these policies that we're going to be looking at, whether new or enforcing the existing ones, have been things that have been heavily contested in the past. Also knowing that, well, until we're able to maybe get the IPCR to maybe contribute at the national level in terms of this NMPC routes, they will still be engaging one way or another with farming communities. And so the conflict, until we're able to redirect, that conflict is still going to be a real and potential issue between these two communities. So I think, again, while we understand that they are majorly or primarily focused on livestock, and livestock can range from different areas, I think it's also appreciable to see that the communities that they will mostly be interfacing with, again, these are land intensive ventures, and the other counterparts are automatically farmers. So there's also going to be that need to have this kind of constant communication on both sides. Even the policies that you want to bring, when you're redirecting, are we sure that this is not going to cause another issue that you're just postponing to the future? Also to touch on the issue of security, beyond the conflict that we are currently experiencing between the active issues between farmers and herders, we must also understand that our border security is also an issue, because there have been a lot of cases where we see migrant herders, nomadic herders coming from other countries, into our countries, having almost no idea of what some of the rules and regulations are. There have been cases where farmers have talked to them even using different languages and they just don't understand. Okay. So there's also that need to strengthen, perhaps work with security agencies to strengthen these areas. Again, like Mr. Paul rightly said, if we focus more on the agitations of the livestock community, a lot of that is going to reflect on the relationship that they have with the farming community. And lastly, I would touch on the climate change. It is very real. Yeah. Right. So even in addition to the urbanization, the farming allocation, there's also the receding, pasturable lands that we have. The desert is constantly expanding because of the realities of what we are facing right now, and even the land, the arable land that we potentially have, are being eroded with with the rising issues within the south areas. So these are realities that the ministry will have to deal with. And again, like I said before, you don't have to do it yourself. I think this is something that has been consistent with a lot of ministries. We just said about the police asking for another documentation where you need to pay 5,000 for ECMR or something, and these are information that if you had, work collaboratively with maybe other agencies, you'll be able to tie into. So there's always been this nature of every ministry working in silos. I think this is, a time for the Ministry of Livestock to learn, right, from the past and not repeat that same mistake. There are people who are experienced, who have vast resources in terms of human capital and knowledge resources that are able to manage a lot of these issues, and collaborating with them would definitely help move things forward.
Okay, let's talk about community buy-in now. How important is community involvement and buy-in for the success of the livestock ministry, and also what steps should be taken to ensure that this happens and, in turn works for the success?
Yeah, so I think that the government is doing good on that, especially that the ministry has not come on stream yet. There is a presidential committee that has been inaugurated, and the president said he's going to be there as the chairman, and Jegai will be deputized for him. And I think there are a couple of other critical stakeholders that have been on stream, including farming community as well as herding community. So that community buy-in, I think before the ministry will kickstart fully, this presidential committee will ensure that the template has been designed properly, so that they will know what should be on ground before the ministry's activity kickstart. But to say that the truth is that you need a community buy-in to ensure sensitization is critical, so that communities, the farming communities, will not look at it as if that you are taking care of the pastoralist community. And that has been the criticism since the president announced the emergence of or the proposal for the creation of the livestock ministry. So you need the community to understand the policy direction of the government. This is why we are doing this. And so the place of collaboration cannot be overemphasized. The National Orientation Agency has a lot to do, but that they can't do that alone. And I think that's why your own platform is critical in doing this, as well as many others, to ensure that the communities, the place of radio in Nigeria is very critical, and that's why we need to salute this initiative. Unlike others that are elitist driven, this particular platform, the pastoralists in the remote part of this country will be able to hear this conversation. So there is need for that. We need to ensure that we engage language-specific stations also, so that they will be able to disseminate and get the buy-in. There is also need to ensure, because at times influencers are critical. So at times you need to know gatekeepers, you need to know influencers in every community and at every strata of the society, so that you engage them on this government policy, including political parties. Politicians are critical in doing this, because if you don't do that, the tendency is that they tend to politicize everything. And the president took note of that when he said that this is a critical national assignment. We shouldn't politicize it. Even assuming, but not conceding, that this is just a trial, I think we need to give it our all, because every other initiative seems to be challenged, and therefore this initiative needs to be supported as for every Nigerian, every stakeholder. But I agree totally with you that community stakeholders need to buy into this thing, and the best way for them to buy, like the scriptures will say, how will they hear until they are told? So we need to go and meet them. We need to go to the mountains, to their cave, and disseminate the importance of this ministry. If we don't do that, then other people will take charge of the space and begin to say things that are not right about this ministry. So I agree wholly with you that there is need for that.
I also add that there are a couple of low-hanging fruits for the ministry to tap into. We know that within the livestock value chain, there's quite a lot of economic potential that can be harnessed from it. So I think even partnering with the business, entrepreneurial, and the manufacturing society, or the ecosystem of the country, would really help. There was an article that was released recently. A lot of the products that you find made in Italy, leather products made in Italy, were actually sourced from Nigeria, right? And they were exported and then put, there's different countries name put there. So because of the that expose, they now started using genuine leather. So they didn't even give credit back to Nigeria. So these are lower-hanging fruits that we can, and this is just one from hides, right, from leather and all of that. There's also the pork value chain. There's the goat's milk value chain, and all you can do with that, cheese and all of that. Even within our own country, I don't know how many people actually take advantage of that. These are low-hanging fruits that would also add to the credibility of this ministry and will help them get public buy-in, because it's really crucial. A lot of, unfortunately, this particular ministry is coming at a time where things are being heavily criticized, especially from the government and all of that, and also looking at the current dynamics between farmers and others. So I think that public buy-in is really crucial, especially when people say that, okay, this will also create jobs and all of that. So it's a really robust field that I think if well managed and the collaborations are well fostered, it will really, really help.
Okay. Very interesting one. Okay, let's take on the next question then. But I see someone calling. I think this person wants to make his own contribution. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Swat, and good afternoon to your guests.
Welcome.
All right, so very, very interesting topic, really.
Yeah, tell me your name, please.
I grew up in Jos.
Your name?
Oh, sorry, my name is Umar. I'm calling from Guarimpa.
Okay.
So I grew up in Jos, and most of the things you are talking about, I have seen in reality, like the grazing routes. I remember we're driving, to some parts, and you would see signs, these road signs that say cattle crossing, And with time, we stopped seeing that because, yes, cattle crossing. I remember that cattle crossing. Yes. So we stopped seeing that because of course farms came in, people encroachment and all of that. That has happened. Now looking forward, from all the conversation, I've heard very little about ranching because it's very important. If you look at South Africa, they have lots of ranches. They are, I think, is it Deji? I can't remember the name of the other speaker. He mentioned value chain.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, he mentioned the value chain. If you go to abattoir, believe me, Swat, you would not want to buy meat because if you see the cattle that is taken to abattoir to be slaughtered, you will not want to buy meat. And then we have the opportunity to have a very robust dairy industry in Nigeria. If you go to Jos, where we have those farms, you would see what's happening. So apart from the grazing routes that we keep talking about, let's also encourage these pastorals to go into ranching. It will cost a lot of money. It will cost a lot of time, but it's something that is doable. So I think we should look into that as well, ranching. Because, going up and down, yes, pastoralists, they do that and all of that. But you talked about the climate change. As much as the climate is changing, they should learn to bring their things together in one place, and you will have better yield. That's my thought anyway. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Umar. Thank you. We'll take this one then. I'll continue more of the questions. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, Swakasat.
Welcome.
Good afternoon to our guests. My name is Salasi.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. We can hear you. Go ahead.
I want to concur with the last caller, most especially the aspect of we should forget about cattle. We should go for ranching. Do you know, there was a time I visited this former Adamawa state governor. He has a big farm and it's ranching. Then this former president, this former military administration from Niger State, he has his own farm too. You don't see his cattle on the way. How about Abdullahi Adamu? They have all farms. They are on ranches. There was Mambila. If you know Mambila, have boundary with Cameroon. They have good ranches, and those cows are living healthier than the one walking around, roaming around the street. So if we can be able to go on ranching, yes, just like what people say is cost, but it will be very good because from that ranching we get healthier animals to slaughter. Not unlike you see some animal quarter to go, that's the one they will carry go quarter and so on and so forth. Sometimes we'll be consuming even what if we see wrong with our real eyes. We won't even go there. We are talking of Brazil and other countries that develop in ranching and so on and so forth. But we are still talking of grazing, cattle, what are they doing, their route or something like that. We don't pass that age. We are in digital age now. So we should go for ranching. I think is all the best. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Salasi. He talked about age of technology, and that's the next question I want for us to quickly consider before we take more callers. The role of technology and innovation, in ensuring that this actually works, because we're in an age of technology. Most times when you get to hear some of the initiatives, you're wondering, okay, why are we still dragging our feet in terms of applying technology when it comes to issues of the farmers, herders, clashes? So many countries have advanced. If when you see their ranching system, you see all that is applied within there, you just wonder what is the problem. So role of technology and innovation, and what it can play or how it can play out in supporting this livestock ministry initiative to promote peaceful coexistence between farmers and herders.
Yes, so I agree with the callers that there is need for us to imbibe ranching as a quick one. Mm-hmm. But if you read the National Livestock Transformation Plan and the challenges that we are confronting or we are confronted with in Nigeria with the issues of culture, with the issues of ignorance, with the issue of issues relating to our people, especially those that are engaged in nomadism in the country. You need to take phases. You need to do it gradually. You can, and if you look at the initiative, for instance, by some states in Nigeria with the enactments of the anti-open grazing and ranching establishment laws, it has heightened the conflict in some of these states. The reason is that you need to do a gradual phasing out of something that people have imbibed as a culture for years. So it's a gradual process that we need to do. And the gradual process is what has commenced with that we are now at this phase with the creation or the proposed creation of the Ministry for Livestock Development. The ministry will facilitate, I believe, the process that has commenced with the sensitization that farmers and herders should have ranches. So the ministry will do that. And if you listen to the conversation, we earlier on mentioned the fact that they will engage state governments. One of the first questions you asked has to do with land, water, and pasture. And so those lands, water, and pasture are within jurisdictions of the state governments and are within communities. That can be done if the ministries then engage these stakeholders in a policy way and systematic way to be able to get ranches, whether it is public-owned ranches as it is under the grazing reserve, or it is then sold to to herders in a subsidized way. That will be done by the ministry. I think that is one of the things that if you read the communique that came out of the National Confab on livestock. Now, coming to the place of technology and innovation, whether we like it or not, it is very critical in terms of identifying even the people that are engaged. For data and identification is very critical. It's also critical for us to be able to learn best practices and to know the best topography to apply what and where to do what with our own livestock in the country. Because, for instance, there are certain types of or species of cattle that cannot do well in Nigeria. It is technology that will be able to do that for us, and science. So I want to say that science and technology is critical in this regard, and I urge the implementers of this initiative, especially that is now at the stage of Presidential Committee on Livestock, to begin to think how they can do that. There are specialists in this field. I'm just a peace practitioner. I'm not a specialist in terms of pastoralism.
Absolutely. I like the way you really put it. And while I was even talking, I was looking at also the business, again, just speaking from the economic aspect. The business opportunities that this also provides, especially for people who own massive pieces of land and can go into private leasing. So in situations where we know that for the meantime, it will be very difficult. Like you rightly said, this has become a culture. It's not business for them anymore, right? You see the average nomad who sees the cattle as a part and parcel of himself, right? So for many of them, it's a culture for them. So it would take a while for you to phase out nomadism as we have it and have maybe a more sustainable version of that, or perhaps looking more critically into permanent ranches. And there's a lot of value that ranching brings, not just in terms of sustainability, but looking at diversifying the value chain of that livestock economy, right? So it's really important. But then there's also the business side where people who have access to large pieces of land can then lease out or rent out these land spaces. So as against cattle roaming around within the city centers, expressways, and all of that, there are designated routes between ranching sites, right, that are protected and preserved by the National Wildlife Preservation or Conservation Policy. that protects the life and properties of these nomads, so that by the time they are moving from one location to another, they're moving from ranch to ranch, right? So whether it's public owned or private owned, and then they're able to make business of that. So in addition to maybe the immediate result or offshoot of the livestock, there's also the land profiteering that they can also do from that. There are also ways by which, again, they mentioned, I think the first caller that mentioned that if you go to the abattoir and you will see the state of the kind of meat that they process, you probably never want to eat meat again. And that is very, very true. Because even if, let's just look at the way things are managed generally. We see that, the ministry that is supposed to be in charge of ensuring that all these things go through certain standards and ethics and codes are almost non-existent, in these areas. For instance, there was a news article that was out, I think, earlier in the week, that mentioned that when they are moving cows to cow market, right, there is a levy of 500 naira that is issued out per cattle. But on the ticket that is issued is 200 naira that is there. The 200, the 500, nobody knows where they end up in, because they don't go to the state, local government, or the federal coffers. So again, there are ways by which monitoring this herders, there are ways that you can use RFID tags, inexpensive, with maybe the cheapest RFID card now goes for roughly between 50 naira to 100 naira, right? To tag every cow that you have or every cattle that you have, right? Again, I'm just looking at the cattle because that's what is most popular right now. Tagging all of them. So even when one moves away, you can easily scan who owns this cow, right? So there have been cases of cow enter my farm. We don't know who the owner be, and they kill the cow. And then there's retribution on that land, right? So you can easily scan, okay, this belongs to certain person, XYZ. They're able to find the person, and then the person is made to pay for the destruction on the land. So there's a lot that technology, and this is just one of many. So I think, again, opening your doors to experts, people who have committed resources and knowledge and all of that to these different areas would really help.
Okay. Let's read some contributions and opinions on this topic that we're talking about. Good day, SWAT. This policy by... Okay, no, this is not for this one. Okay. One of the major issues or major causes of the farmer-herders clash, and in an event of farm encroachment, non-punitive measures should be encouraged. This will help address farmers-herders conflict in Nigeria. Aliu Mohammed from Kaduna sends that in. Wari E. Victor from Kubwa said, do we actually need a whole ministry for this livestock? Although I know it's an important aspect, but can't a department in the Ministry of Agriculture take this responsibility? I'm not an advocate of duplication of duty in governance. We are also going to create another ministry, or are we going to create another ministry for crops production tomorrow? In my view, it's unnecessary and a waste of funds for infrastructures, and all we have, especially at a time like this in this country. Okay, let me get that part. Creating the ministry is one thing, and really managing the ministry towards the purpose which it was created is another, because ultimately what we want is peace, but not when certain groups of people feel more rights to carrying out their business without looking into perspective, the damage that their kind of business will do to others. And in this case, the local farmers whose business is crop farming. But again, are we going to set a ministry for crop farming for roadside petty traders who are particularly from a particular region? Yet addressing the problem of pastoralists is key to solving this age-long conflict between farmers and herders. But we must employ modern techniques in cattle farming. Nigerians should completely erase the thinking of bringing back grazing routes or reserves, because the world has gone past the old model We must encourage ranching and practice cattle breeding or livestock according to international best practice. More importantly, is more enlightenment on the part of the herders and farmers on the need to manage this conflict, says Obande. Not having a Nigerian, personally, for the mere fact that the federal government is suddenly quiet about our 4 refineries. Okay, this is not for this very time. Let me quickly take the other messages, then we'll come back. All right. This one is a message here from Tokwe. Tokwe said, good afternoon to our guests. Our guest mentioned ranching in the previous program. It was an extensive discussion. Maybe they should touch it briefly for listeners that missed the previous episode, says Tokwe. Mike in Kagini said, Swat, it's only in Nigeria that you see cattle moving around in the city center and destroying people's farms in the bush. I can tell you that former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dokara, has one of the largest herds of cattle in the country in his ranch in Nasarawa State. Ranching is already being practiced. So I think the only way to go, because farmers have the right to freely cultivate on their lands without fear of their crops being destroyed or being attacked, says Mike in Kagini. 3 more and we're done. Prince Okifo said, good afternoon. It's fantastic conversation on our radio network this afternoon. However, with all due respect, there's nothing like farmers and herders clashes. It's strictly herders killing farmers over lands they don't have in the first place. If it were clashes, as some have projected it, there would have been a balance of terror and arsenal. That's weapon usage and casualties would have been even. It's a serious war against helpless farmers in their own land. Instead of government to arrest and prosecute the killers and advise others to ranch their animals, they are creating this and that with public funds to appease them. They won't appease, or they won't be appeased. I tell you, it's very unfair. I hope giving them a ministry will bring back to life the huge number of innocent farmers they've killed. That's Prince Okifo's own opinion this afternoon. Nemen Asokoro said, my sister, let me not waste our time. We or the few sensible ones amongst us in the Southeast cannot be deceived by our objection to this initiative called Initiative Quell, because, first of all, this deceit of herders farmers clashes is simply a lie from the pit of hell, which will never fly even in the ears of a 4-year-old southern extraction. For crying out loud, this ranching is not government business, but a private business. It is the failure of successive years of overgrazing of lands in the north that led to the desertification, battling the northern region, which necessitated the herders to start running amok all over southern and middle belt region with the sinister intention to grab ancestral land of communities, locals. Has anyone considered the massive landmass in the whole of the northern region? So tell me, which land are these protagonists of this initiative that is dead on arrival canvassing for? Is this all the best solution we can offer to create grazing routes using NNPC pipeline route? I can go on to give statistics of the sizes of lands in each state and region. The northern government should replenish their lands that has been left deserted due to decades of years of maladministration and misapplication of the ecological funds. Let's leave that message at that, and I'll take on this one from Engineer Femi. You said, good day, please can someone clearly explain why we need a ministry and this our herders farmers clashes error we keep saying? Seth, one day a car will crash into someone's house and will claim house vehicle clashes. Haba, our cattle are not even healthy enough to produce dairy products or meat for exportation, and we aren't even top 15 in Africa. Meanwhile, Botswana makes over $9 billion in revenue, not a soul killed in clashes with farmers. How much dollar has this cattle brought in? $0. And the last message before we come back is from Bookman on Airport Road. He said, Sister Swat, good afternoon, man. Good afternoon to our guests in the studio. As a country, I don't know why we are always struggling with everything and we call ourselves giants of Africa. What example are we showing to the rest of Africa? Look at how long we've been struggling with refineries. Now is ranches to Ruga, all manner of talks as a nation. I think we just are good in talking. Anyway, these are some of the feedbacks that we're having this afternoon. Many are not buying this whole stuff, but then quick response and we begin to wrap up our conversation, right?
So for me, I think Nigerians have every reason to be concerned over government policies, but it's normally like that. But we have a problem, existential problem at hand. People are dying. Something has to be done.
Yeah.
There's a concern, and the concern is that there is need to ensure that we explore the huge potential in the livestock industry.
Okay.
And whether it is the farmers or it is the violence that is tagged the farmer-herder conflict that is pushing us towards actualizing that intention or that objective that we can take advantage of. If you read the comments of the president, he said that there is huge potentials, there's prosperity. Assuming that there is nobody or our cattle are not good for nothing, we can then import the good cattle and then we have the intention. There are a set of people that love these cattle. We can then deploy these Nigerians with this intention, with this expertise to take care of these cattle. For me, there is potential. For me, we can take advantage of it. For me, we are importing beef. We are importing all the dairy products. Where can we take advantage of this livestock ministry and then get this done here? Whether our cows are lean and akoshoko stricken, we can then transform them into something that is good. So I know that we have this concern, and the concern has been whether the farmer-herder conflict has transformed into banditry, into insurgency is entirely a conversation for another day. But the point is that there are conflicts that we can categorize as farmer-herder conflict. Some aspect of it has been overtaken or has been hijacked by bandits, by terrorists, right? That has been enabled by this farmer and herder conflict. And the solution is here with us. Should we do that? I think we can do that. We should. The example of Botswana has been reiterated. The example of the former speaker that is doing it, and some politicians that are doing it are there. I have been to Mambila Plateau, Gembu in Mambila Plateau in Taraba State. The fact that yes, they are ranching and then there is conflict also, then inform the fact that we need to manage our land very well. We need to ensure that access to land is evenly distributed or to some extent distributed or managed to a certain extent that Nigerians are happy with the way and manner we are managing this land. And that has been the problem. Though there is ranching in Mambila Plateau, but the farmer-herder conflict is there.
Yes,
there is violence there. How do we then manage land in such a way that we will not go back to that? We must then manage this livestock ministry in such a way that at the end of the day, the huge potential in pastoralism is harnessed, and those cattle breeders are engaged very well in such a way that they will not then be engaged in violence on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly. Okay. Yeah. Nothing to add.
I think yes.
All right.
Perfectly.
Okay. So I mean, our time is up, and I guess we have to begin to round up. But clearly, it's indicative. I mean, from everything that you said, that this livestock ministry has the potential to, be a transformative step in addressing the deep-rooted conflicts between farmers and herders. And well, thank you so much, Mr. Paul, for coming over for the program today. Mr. Paul Andrew Gwaza, Research Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Adedoyin Betiku, Senior Program Officer, Strategic Communications and Peace Building of the NIM Foundation. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll see you after another 2 weeks,
Yes.
right? Okay, guys, that's how it's been on the show today, brought to you by Protecting Our Communities Initiative, POCI. And today we looked at the livestock ministry, a game changer for farmer-herders relations. And thank you also for your contribution and your thoughts on this topic. We draw the curtain right now. I'll take a break and come back and say my goodbyes.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Connection established. This is Nigeria